Thank you everyone for joining. I am Sophie Bonnet. I'm the curator for ArtServe. And tonight we'll be talking with the amazing artists behind Thou Are Women about their latest exhibition, Misbehave, Lesbian Folklore More. But first, I would like to introduce and welcome co-founder of Thou Are Women, Ms. G. Rainier.
Hey.
Welcome, G. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing, Sophie?
Super excited. We're doing great.
Wonderful.
How are you guys?
Yes, thank you so much for hosting us, and thanks to all the artists for coming on board to do this virtual talk. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me just quickly introduce who the folks are and give them a chance to share who they are a little bit. We have with us artist Jane Kreinberg. We have Trish Delish. We have Graciela Valdes, Khaulah, Naima, Nuruddin. And we will have Zipporah, Michel, and we also have Esprit the Poet. So if each artist could just briefly say who they are so the audience can get to know who's with them today.
Okay, shall I start?
Yes, sure, go ahead, Jane.
Okay, I'm Jane Kreinberg. I live in Fort Lauderdale, and my medium is photography. I've been making photographs since the pre-digital days. In college, I did my own black and white images, developing my own work in the darkroom. And I put a hold on doing photography for a number of years, concentrating on music, being a percussionist, and working in the Chicago Women's Graphics Collective, doing silkscreen posters, lesbian and feminist posters. I bought my first digital camera in 2003, which really facilitated my getting back into doing photography. But it wasn't until I moved to South Florida in 2009 that I really started showing my work, and I've been involved in the arts and LGBTQ communities ever since. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane. So we'll go to Trish next.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Trish Stipka, AKA Trish Delish Art. And I'm 71 years old, so I've done quite a lot of things in these 71 years. Artistically speaking, I work right now in metal and clay, and I do rug hooking. In the past, I worked as a chiropractor for many years. And during that time, in the middle 1990s or so, is when I first took up working in clay. I managed to do a little bit of that on the side. And I retired from chiropractic in 1998, and promptly at the beginning of 1999, excuse me, got in a motorhome with my lovely wife, Jane Kreinberg, and we traveled full time for 10 years. During that 10 years when I was on the road, I also took up rug hooking. And then after we settled here in 2009, I finally found a blacksmith shop where I could learn metalwork, because I'd always wanted to do metalwork as well, but didn't have a chance. So I found the shop and I started doing some metalwork. And sadly, there aren't any metal pieces in this show tonight. But if you look at the background behind Jane Kreinberg, the middle picture above her is one of my metal pieces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think of my art as being gynocentric, and by that I mean that it's very female-oriented, lesbian, feminist. So I bring that perspective to my art, and I always hope that my art is a little provocative, or we might even say misbehaving.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's hear from Graciela.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Graciela Valdes. I am a published and professionally certified portrait photographer. I specialize in boudoir photography. It is my mission to create experiences that are very intimate, they're healing, they're transformative and empowering. And I know those words have become cliche, but I swear it's true. We'll talk more about that later. It's really an introspective journey that helps you kind of harness your power, your potential. It's an incredible experience. I am an ally of the LGBTQ community. I'm committed to holding space for anyone who desires to experience growth through intimate portraiture. And I'm also a co-founder of the Boudoir Project with my friend Gabby. And that is a project specifically dedicated to empowering butch and masculine of center women and non-binary individuals to celebrate their identity, their sexuality, and expand visibility. I guess the last thing I could tell you is I'm also a certified advocate for body positivity. So again, providing a safe, non-judgmental space for all body types. At the end of the day, we all just want to feel good. We want to feel loved. We want to express ourselves however the hell we want, and we want to feel good doing it. And that's it. That's me.
Excellent. Thank you, Graciela. Khaulah.
Hello, I'm Khaulah Naima Nuruddin. I'm primarily a painter, but I explore all mediums, and I'm always open to expanding my understanding of different mediums. And I make art because I must, but I also make art for, social impact, to talk about issues that are really problematic in, the world we live in. So quite simply, it's in my blood, and we'll talk further about my personal practice later.
Wonderful. I want to also welcome everybody who's watching us, and I see people sharing. Please keep sharing this conversation. Jump in with any questions that you have or any comments. We love to make it interactive. That's why we're live, right?
All right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to learn more about you and your work. But first, G, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and this amazing project, Thou Art Women?
Okay, well, Thou Art Woman was founded back in 2014. It was myself, Nick Harris, and PJ Hitchens, with the support of artist Nikki Lopez, who helped us get started. And we actually just at that point, we didn't really have a grand plan. We just were creating a space for LGBTQ women because there's not sufficient spaces for us. And we thought we would do it as an open mic night during an art show. And that's what we did. And after we did that first one in the summer of 2014, it just kept growing. We'd have several a year, maybe 2, 3 a year, and it kept growing and growing. We started in the 1310 Gallery here in Fort Lauderdale, and then we outgrew this space and we went to ArtServe, and we outgrew that space in a couple of years. And then our most recent shows moved. We decided to go to a 3-day weekend, and with that, we decided for the first time to actually have a art exhibit. So every show that we ever had, we always had visual arts as a part of it, but we were not curating it. We weren't advertising a call for artists or anything. So at this point, we decided let's start curating shows. 2019 was our first show that we curated, and 2020 is our second show. And we are at ArtServe there. We had to cancel all in-person events, but thankfully we actually had the art exhibit already up. And we also had it in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Shout out to the city of Fort Lauderdale for having us have our show in some parts in the city hall there.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about the concept behind the Misbehave Exhibition? What was the original idea or motivation to do this show?
Well, when we were decided to do the show, I came and met with Sophie, who is a curator at ArtServe, and I was really drawn to the show that they were having, that you were having, called Disobedience, right? And it was also, just like our show in March, was celebrating during Women's History Month. So we decided to piggyback and collaborate. So we kind of, I particularly love wordplay. Oh, here we have some nice images from past Thou Art Women events. This is great. Okay, lovely. So, so based on the Disobedient show, we piggybacked and came up with Misbehave. Even the way you guys had done the parentheses with the Disobedient, we went with the Miss, and we loved how the play on the words Miss for Thou Art Woman worked out really well. Okay. And we decided, the call that we sent out said, Misbehave aims to explore the ways lesbians have been represented in society at large, how these representations have been revered, reclaimed, rejected, and redefined. It delves into how gender expression, gender presentation, and lesbian sexuality has been used as a means of creating our own circles of identity and acceptance.
Yes, and hey, how important is to showcase or highlight multidisciplinary experiences
You know, it's so important, especially for our community, like women, and then to narrow it down to LGBTQ women, even more so. There's really very few spaces that we can, you know, make sure that we are the center stage. So we've been doing performing arts where we've had, as you've seen the images, dancers, a lot of spoken word. We're going to have Esprit the Poet perform for us today. A lot of spoken word. We've had comedians. So, and then of course now we really have the opportunity to let our visual artists take center stage, join in that, being featured, have their work being featured.
So before we continue, I would like to welcome Zipporah. I know she just joined us. Zipporah.
Hi, Zipporah. You can just give yourself a quick introduction, just saying who you are, just a couple minutes or so to introduce yourself. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Zipporah Michel. I'm a pansexual artist, and I pretty much featured my work in the show. I mainly do illustrations, whether by using paint, mainly acrylic, or use mixed media with dry media. And it's pretty much a study of cultural appropriation and a lot of surrealism.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say, everyone watching, thank you for joining. We're here with our women talking about our most recent exhibition, Misbehave, currently displaying at ArtServe. So please type in your questions and comments for the artists. So let's get started. I would like to welcome our first artist of the night, Jane Kreinberg.
Hi.
Hey, Jane.
Yeah, hi. Basically, I just want to say that being a lesbian feminist for almost 50 years, I've seen the evolution of lesbian images as we redefine ourselves and the many forms of self-expression that we've created. And I wanted to make photographs that represent the full spectrum of our sexuality and gender expression. And although I've been going to lesbian events for decades, you know, again, almost 50 years, it's only in about the last 10 years that I've started making more photographs of lesbians. And I think the increased visibility and bravery of lesbians expressing themselves authentically has really inspired me. So this first photo is called Here Come the Brides. This has quite a story to it. Trish and I went to our niece Becky's wedding. Becky's the one on the left. She married Katie, and this was back in 2012. And I took this photo and I just loved it because there's just so much joy there that they can actually get married. Now it wasn't, we didn't have marriage equality nationwide yet. And I put this photo in an exhibit down here, United and Proud from Arts United. And I got such good feedback, and I was on the board at the time, and the board said, you know, wouldn't it be great if we did a whole exhibit of photos of same-sex couples, and they had to go out of state to get married, and then they come back here to Florida, and their marriage is not recognized. It's not legal here because it was only legal in a few states. So we put out a call, and we did this amazing exhibit called We Do Too. We had about 30 couples submit photos and a statement of what it meant to them to have to go out of state to get married and then come back here and not have their marriage recognized. So we had the show, we did it up in West Palm, down in Miami. It was at the Broward Center, the Broward Main Library. So that photo really took off and made this whole exhibit. And so I think it's fitting that that photo is now on exhibit in the Fort Lauderdale City Hall. So we've come full circle.
That's beautiful.
So anyhow, so on this next set, the photo on the left is from Key West Women Fest, from the Butch contest. And I love the dichotomy between the tough outside and then showing her softer inside. And the middle photo is from the Andro Fashion Show. G, you were the MC there, if you remember.
Yes, of course.
Just, you know, women creating fashions for women who don't want to have the traditional female look, obviously, and just, it's so powerful to have people who are designing fashions for women across the board. And can you see the last photo? Or pictures on top of it. But okay, well, anyhow. All right, that was the kiss. That was from the Miami Gay Pride. This photo, can we go back a little?
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay, this was taken at the Ohio Lesbian Festival. One of the performers, her name is Bitch, and she managed to get over the fence into the crowd. And I just love the energy and the community of this photo, just lifting her up. And okay, and then the next photo. Well, this is two photos. This is from a Drag King show. Most of you probably have heard of drag queens. I don't know if you've all heard of drag kings, but they're out there, and they put on amazing shows. So this is a couple performances from one of those shows. Yeah, drag it out, Nikki.
So, hey, I would like to ask Jen if we have any questions or comments from Zoom or Facebook.
Yeah, we don't have any questions, but we do have a lot of comments on Zoom. So Nikki Lopez, she says, love to hear more about your work, Jane. Also that you are documenting the evolution of lesbians and how we exist on so many spaces. Drag it out.
Thanks.
And this is Jasmine. She says, Jane, that is a beautiful photograph. You're so talented. I'm in awe. I didn't realize you did photography.
Wow.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Yes. Also, wow, 50 years. Thanks for all that you do. And on Facebook, we've just got a lot of I love it, hearts for Jane, a lot of hellos. A lot of people are really excited about this whole program. So yeah, a lot of people watching too, a lot.
Great, thanks a lot.
Jen.
Yeah, of course.
So, Jane, like I am a photography junkie. I'm particularly obsessed with non-conventional methods of photography. Which photographers have influenced you, and how did they influence your thinking, your photographing and career path? And was photography your first career choice?
Well, there are so many photographers. I mean, I look at photographs all the time, and I'm inspired by different styles. It's really hard for me to pick out a few of, the famous photographers. I have a few that I personally know. Well, one is Jeb, Joan E. Byron, who has been documenting lesbians probably for 50 years, one of the first photographers who really started doing that, because there weren't any images of us out there. They weren't represented. So she's just been an amazing role model for me in that. And my friend Sharon Demarest has been kind of a mentor for me in photography. I just love her work, and she taught me Photoshop, basically, what I do know about it, and has sort of helped me along with growing my skill, and I really thank her for that. Other than that, well, Annie Leibovitz, I love her work. There's just so many, I can't really say.
G, what was it about Jane's work that trapped you and kind of like you needed to make a part of this exhibition?
Yeah, well, a big part of Our Woman is giving us the spaces to be ourselves, and also the visibility. And, when we started, we got with the open mic, we had the voice, being able to share our stories and our poetry and our comedy and so on. And with the visual arts show, the exhibition, we're able to show so much different representations of ourselves. So as Jane had discussed, like being able to show how we present in different ways. I also appreciate greatly the diversity of the people that she's sharing oftentimes when you look at images, you may not see someone who looks like me. You're not gonna sometimes see a Black person, right? So the fact that she includes different races, different shades, different age groups, very important. Different gender expressions, you know, to see somebody masculine, to see someone feminine and androgynous. Those are the things that we need to share. You know, we don't really see that, so we create that so that we can see ourselves. And I want to add to what with the city, the Here Comes the Brides, we put it right in front of the elevator when we were installing it. Someone said, you know, that's a great place because everybody, and we understood that thousands of people, even though we were closing down, that building still had activity. So thousands of people actually came out of an elevator and saw that image.
Oh, great.
Really, that was nice to have that. Yes.
Well,
That's great, Chief. Thanks.
You're welcome. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And everyone, please keep typing your comments and questions. And I would like to also welcome our second artist of the night, Zipporah. Hey, Zipporah.
Hi.
It's great to see you. So please
Great
tell us
seeing
about
you
your
guys.
work.
My work is more culturally oriented and more about self-identity. And my color palette's crazy. It's mostly a lot of tribal work, well, tribal art based, mixed in with other cultures. I mean, there was one I did for Chinese New Year, and most of them are female figures. The first one I did here was for Chinese New Year's. And if anything, they're more, well, the Asian culture is more into that simple extravagance, but I combined it with that tribal extravagance too, including the background. And the second piece was for, I think you skipped over, but there was a second piece that, well, after it for Valentine's Day, and this was done last year. And normally what people would put out for Valentine's Day is the idea of just two people coming together romantically, but I pretty much put out an African figure instead.
Okay. So what are we seeing here?
Mostly caricatures based on their tribal theme. I mean, I've done exaggerated versions of Asian themes and African themes, and at one time I did the Native American theme. It's not, I mean, it's more based on the culture rather than how they would exactly appear.
Yeah, okay. I'm the biggest fan of your work. I told you this before, you're an amazing artist and storyteller. And I don't know if you know this about me, but my first career, it wasn't in the arts. It was actually in anthropology with a concentration in early civilizations. Where does your fascination for other cultures come from? And like, what type of investigation or research do you do to assure you're representing other cultures respectfully, and do you immerse yourself in these cultures during your creative process?
Oh, I mean, ever since like my early childhood, like my parents have always, they have always like encouraged me to like pretty much look deeper into anthropology and into other cultures and to actually respect other cultures. Like if I pretty much plan to exaggerate the fashion, like it has to at least, like people can still recognize it for what it is. So if I'm gonna do research, it has to be like coming from the right resources. So at the very least, like I have to make sure like they are actually represented, even though I'm exaggerating it in my style.
Well,
If that answers the question.
A beautiful work. Hey, Jen, do we have any comments for Zipporah or any questions, coming up on Facebook or Zoom?
We do have comments. So I'll start with Zoom. Hi, Zephyra. I'm saying hi. Yes.
Oh, wait, say that again. I don't think the sound came through with mine.
Can you
Wait.
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I said I'm finally saying your name right.
Oh, you're saying it right.
Zephyra. Okay. So we have a lot of comments. Let's start with Carolyn says those colors are awesome. And Kathy says, oh, wow. The colors are absolutely amazing.
Thank
And
you.
who is this? The name is kind of cut off. It looks like it says Rick. I am jaw dropped.
Yes.
You are extremely talented. Great job. I love them.
Mhm.
And this Jasmine says, Zephyra, this is amazing. I want a personalized piece.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can call me. I'm on Facebook.
So
And
yeah, so where can we purchase your work? Maybe Jen, can we share some links on Facebook?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have all the
Zoom.
links here. I'll put them on Facebook and Zoom.
Yeah, at some point, each artist will have their contact information here. And yes, we do want to encourage people to ask more questions, to consider purchasing the art that you've seen here or anything from their collections.
100%.
Definitely for now, you can contact me through my email or through Facebook, because my website's still growing in terms of actually upgrading it to make sure I can actually do transactions.
Okay.
But all in all, like I do plan on doing prints and merchandising and any commissions, and if anyone or everyone is interested.
That's good to know. That's great to know. Thank you, Zephyra. And I would like to welcome our next artist of the night, Trish Stipka.
Thank you. Hi, Sophie. Hi, everyone. I wanted to start out talking about my breast goddess. I hope you'll put that image up soon, because there's long history from ancient times, when matriarchal times, when women's breasts were actually revered in a sacred way, the way some places are now. For example, I was considering doing a piece like this. I decided to Google breast goddess because I knew there would be images of ancient breast goddesses. But when I Googled breast goddess, what I got was women who were apparently porn stars, had breasts out to here. So I was a little frustrated, and finally a fellow artist friend of mine said, why don't you try Googling ancient breast goddess? And then I got the kind of image that I was interested in seeing, an image of a woman with many breasts, because in the matriarchy, breasts were revered. And in fact, there was a saying, I have breasts, therefore I am. And so the more breasts, the better. So that's what was behind the creation of this piece. And this piece actually is a little takeoff from the Venus of Willendorf. That's an ancient piece of art. And I used that image to help me form this image, but it is still my own image.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah.
And what are we seeing here?
Yeah, next on the left, we've got the breast goddess bodice. So you're starting to see a recurring theme here, I know. But this is actually breast goddess bodice 2, because there is a breast goddess bodice 1 that I made out of metal, but this one is made out of clay. And again, I just, like to see as many breasts as I can get in the picture, pretty much. So, and the one on the right, called Hot Wired Mama. So although of course it's partly metal because the wire is metal wire, but it's on a satin background. And of course, I'm sure you can tell what it's supposed to look like. So I don't need to say more about that. And here, now these two pieces are back, I did these back in the 1990s when I was still working full-time as a chiropractor, doing a little bit of clay on the side. So the one on the left is called a triple. Again, experimenting with breast images. And then on the right, we do a different type of breast image. This is called breast silhouettes. I don't know if you can see it as well, because part of it, at least on my screen, is cut off by the people. But you get the idea that it's images I cut breasts out of clay and then stuck them onto a backing piece. And then I think there's just one left. Yes, final piece. This is called lips. And this is a piece I just made. It's actually 12 by 12 because I made it with the Art and Soul show in mind, which is put on by Business for the Arts Broward, because they want art pieces to be either 12 by 12 or 20 by 20 or 30 by 30. So that's why I made this piece exactly 12 by 12. Their show was canceled this year too, but here's the piece. And as you can see, it, at least in my mind, reminds me of certain female body parts.
Is this also clay?
Yes, this is out of clay. Here? Yeah, almost everything in this show turned out to be clay. Like I said, the one, the Hot Wired Mama, has wire and fabric, no rugs and no fully metal pieces, but you can see that one metal piece behind Jane anytime you look at her. So.
Thank you, Trish. And you mentioned that art wasn't your first career choice. You want to tell us a little bit about the story behind, you know, like how did you transition from a non-artistic profession to being a full-time artist? Like what happened there?
Well, I retired from chiropractic because it was physically exhausting work for me. And then I traveled full-time in a motorhome for 10 years, mostly, you know, doing a lot of touring of the country and relaxing. And although I did take up rug hooking while I was traveling full-time, then when we settled here in 2009, that's when I got into working in metal because I found a blacksmith shop that I could work out of. But I don't really work full-time anymore at my age. I work part-time.
Thank you, Trish. And I know that we have a special performance coming up. G, would you like to introduce our next artist?
Most definitely, it will be my pleasure. So we have Esprit the Poet who will be performing. And as I've discussed, that we started off as an open mic night focused primarily with spoken word. And Esprit is somebody who came up during the open mic performance segment and eventually was someone who we were hiring as a feature performer. And she is a dynamic writer, performer, poet, and actor, so and teacher. So is Esprit ready to go? We're excited to have, and I wanted to add that Esprit just relocated, and we were so sad that she was leaving, but ironically, because of COVID, we're now online, so she can still participate. She's 100% Thou Art Woman family. She's been with us for many, many years. Esprit the Poet.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, G, for the introduction. As she said, I did just relocate from South Florida to Texas, but everything happens for a reason. So even in the midst of COVID, we can partake in this art together, and that's wonderful. So yeah, I'm going to do 2 spoken word pieces, and just a little background on myself. I am an educator by trade. I'm a teacher. I teach high school, and I am a spoken word artist by passion because I'm an activist, and this is the best way for me to connect with people through activism. So whether it be LGBTQ rights or whether it be human rights, social justice, Black Lives Matter, whatever it is, if I can advocate, I'm going to advocate, and most of the time I do it through my poetry. So I'm going to touch on 2 poems through 2 different lenses of my life, and the first one will be of Black lesbian. So this piece is called Love, Life's Only Valuable Emotion. My single friends say we ain't been together long enough to be in love. My married friends said when it's real, you just know and let it go. Well, if you ask me, I've been waiting my whole life just to love on you. But it's crazy because the first time I said I loved you, I wasn't even quite sure that I meant it. The concept in that moment became a distant memory, the emotion as unfamiliar as a foreign language, and I could no longer understand it. So was it panic or had I planned it? I was unsure if I was merely regurgitating your received dictation in an attempt to forego further inquiry, or if those three big little words really represented what you meant to me. I believe in destiny and purpose, but I was unclear of why you were sent to me. And uncomfortable in shades of gray, I was yearning for some clarity, you see. Your predecessors had led me to believe that everything I thought I was sure of regarding the topic of love was surely a fairy tale, and I became convinced that agape love only existed in between loosely translated lines of the Bible, and I was sure that marriages were merely contractual situationships of mutual benefit, and I was absolutely certain that all love came with terms and conditions. And I've never been keen on contracts regulating the matters of my heart, so I opted out. I had cut my trust on broken promises of the past, and I needed that time to heal. I needed that time to really feel again, so I locked my ability to be vulnerable up tight for the purposes of self-preservation, but baby, you were patient. You acquired and kept my attention during a time of great resistance, entered my life, refused to leave, and I admired your persistence. I mean, it wasn't that hard. You came equipped with long legs and flawless skin. You were often the cause of whiplash for the masses, and the only thing I was sure of is that the beauty of the moon was only outmatched by your smile. And that physical intoxication carried us along for a while until eventually I stopped looking at you and I started looking at you. And now with you as my mentor and translator, I don't have to guess, I'm absolutely sure that not only is this love real, but reciprocated and pure. I love you like a fat kid loves the idea of being loved unconditionally despite his outward appearance. I know it would have been cliche for me to speak about desserts, but this isn't an instant gratification type of infatuation. We're in it for the long run. And although you do satisfy my soul sweet tooth, you are not my slice of cake. You are my bakery, consistently creating sweet somethings out of nothings, and diabetes can keep me from indulging in you. Because baby, you are my muse. And because of my muse, I see. Speaking of music, I have yet to find a tune to accurately define this moment, nor lyrics that could put love into words. So from this moment on, we'll create our own song. And this won't be a one-hit wonder. Although every time I take a hit of you, I wonder how foolish those before me must have been to wander. I sit and I ponder. What greatness I must have enacted in past lifetimes to receive you as my karma. Because when we kiss, it's not just butterflies, it's eagles soaring, because this love isn't just beautiful, it's royal. And you're not just my pretty little plaything, you're my queen. And I had just about given up on love until fate intervened. But it's crazy, right? Because the first time I said I loved you, I wasn't even quite sure that I meant it. That's love, you guys. This is really different. Virtually, it's kind of like I'm in a mirror doing poetry to myself. So this is really strange. This could take some getting used to. This last piece that I'm gonna do is near and dear to my heart. It's actually something that I've been working on up until like probably today, honestly.
Wow.
So it's something that I had started, and I just kind of started adding on to things as things started happening, and it's called These Days. I'm gonna keep this here just in case. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when my mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when my mama sang us to sleep. But now I'm stressed out that these days the letter C replaces the letter F for the purposes of political correctness. Instead of cops offering back cases, they see Black faces, and somehow the two have time and time again been deemed synonymous. Black until proven innocent in a court of law. I mean, if it gets that far. Young kings signing coerced confessions and plea sentences because their public pretender would rather pass out closed places than deal justice. I thought that the days of blackface haunting people of color will have remained in the 19th century, but boy, was I mistaken. How can the youth believe Black Lives Matter when they're so carelessly taken? And I'm stressed out that these days, instead of maybe Uncle Tom and Buck representing blackface in America, it's the actual brown faces of kings and queens hitting the ground without cause that's offensive. Callous knees on cuffed citizens' neck being showed or portrayed as defensive, but what are you afraid of? I wonder if some white people are offended by mines. It is the most accurate depiction of what whiteface in America would look like. I mean, some are actually good at acting and pretending, but when it's necessary, they can't speak up. I can't wait until silence is treated as an accessory to murder. A bystander, I can't stand her. Would you please excuse my candor, but your silence in the face of injustice is interpreted as slander, and I'm upset that these days, a woman's wardrobe doubles as an invitation to violate what was purposefully made for procreation. The words "no stop" off a little hesitation because she was asking for it. How dare she casually accept those glasses of wine laced with ulterior motives, her skirt well beyond welcome length. I know she said no, but how could she possibly mean it? Well, let me ask you a question. If I walk past your home and the door is casually cracked open, should I invite myself in? Stop. Rhetorical. The answer is no. And if so, why is more importance placed on one's possessions than one's vessel? I can stand my ground in pajamas to protect my home from intruders, but not my body unless I'm dressed in a turtleneck and sober. And then women are told that sexual assault is something you just get over. Man, these days, human suffering is treated as primetime entertainment. Recorders press far more often than 911. Cell phones capture last breaths as if that were their intended purpose. Leak footage of brutal murder surface. 3 cops, no knock, pop, pop, in a body bag. Going out for a jog to clear my head and now I'm filled with lead. 3 cops, 1 knee, mama, I can't breathe, now a dad is dead. Family's only source of comfort is 1 million views and a hashtag. And now they have to repeatedly mourn their father, daughter, son, mother's death because their murder is trending. Well, when did murder get so damn entertaining? The lack of human and humanity is draining, and I wish we could turn back time to the good old days when my mama sang us to sleep. But now we're stressed out and we can't ever stop fighting for justice. So I won't even pretend, and I'm not violent, so I'll write ammunition in my pen. These words not popular but prudent. I don't care who I offend. We must put our pride aside for the true progress to begin. So I'll be the revolutionary, raise my hand and clench my fist, because these issues aren't new ones. We just renamed them, that's it. And they say history repeats itself, and ignorance, well, it's bliss. So sometimes even I pretend that the good old days actually ever did exist. Thank you.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you, Esprit the Poet. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that gift. That was powerful, and we miss you at ArtServe.
Yeah, we miss you in South Florida. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'll be back to visit. I got to visit my children. I left a lot of students back there that I care about dearly, and they got to graduate, they have dances, they have milestones, and like, I don't have children yet myself. So like, those are my kids. So I'll be back often.
Good, let us know. Yes. Thanks again, great performance. Love those pieces. Thank you.
Thank you, Spree. And Jen, I would like to ask if we have questions, comments, what's happening on Facebook and Zoom?
Yes, we have a lot of activity going on. Esprit, I have chills. I had chills the whole time. Everyone loved it. So very well done. Best of luck on the move. So deep, I'm tearing up. Great job talking about these very difficult times. And on Facebook, Colette used to work at ArtServe. She says, wow, fantastic. Kimberly's like, yes. Nikki Lopez, where can we find Esprit on the net? Good question. I don't even know. Can you tell us?
The easiest way is on Instagram. My Instagram is EB like boy, OYD like dog 11. I'm actually in the process of transforming my Instagram page into an artist page, so bear with me. I went from like 280 pictures of like selfies and food and friends and family to like 80 photos that are more relevant, but I'm still like condensing it. And then also my Facebook is Esprit the Poet. My name is spelled ESPRITTHEPOET, poet.
Yeah, and I see that Nikki Lopez has dropped the Instagram link here. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Nikki.
thank you.
Yes, we got some co-producing in the house.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Esprit, Jen. And I would like to welcome our next artist of the night, Graciela Valdes. Hi, Graciela. How are you?
Hello. Good. I'm excited to be in a room that does not have my children in it right now. COVID has made me love my children so much.
Graciela, tell us a little bit about yourself, your work. What is boudoir photography?
Sure. You know, when you say boudoir photography, certain images come to mind, right? Probably a lot like this one behind me. Boudoir photography for me, the way I interpret it and the way I use it is intimate portraiture. And it's a way of taking a picture of how you feel and not necessarily what you look like. You know, I always tell people, if you want to know what you look like, go to the Division of Motor Vehicles. They will take your picture and that is exactly what you look like. But that doesn't mean anything, right? Nobody whips out their driver's license and says, look at me. You know, for me, boudoir portraiture is something that translates how you're feeling. It's an intimate portrait. So yes, some people choose to have lingerie and make it, you know, very feminine. And some people are fully dressed and wrapped in a fur coat up to here, you know, so it can be whatever you want it to be. You know, I always say some people define sexy as a flowing white gown in a field of lavender. And then some people are like 50 shades of gray, right? And then everything in between. So it's like, what is it to you? And that's what I do. That's my specialty, is creating experiences that are unique to each and every single person that I work with. So with boudoir, with the Butch Boudoir Project, is it all right if I get into that, tell you that story?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, good.
Okay.
So thank you. Yeah, actually, if you can go to the other ones, I'll come back to Delmar in a minute. Yeah, let's talk about Gabby. So that's my friend Gabby. We were introduced because she's a graphic designer and we started working together. And of course, she started poking around my website and I poked around her website. And, you know, the way that the story happened is that she told me, you know, she said, you know, I looked at these pictures and for a second, I got into my feminist mindset of like, fuck yeah, strong women, you know, do what you want to do, show your body. And then she says that all of a sudden she was like, oh shit, but wait a minute. You know, most of this boudoir photography stuff doesn't look like me. Is this even really for me? Could I do something like this? And of course I was like, what are you talking about? Of course you can do a boudoir. It's like, a boudoir is for everybody, couples, men, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I said, listen, go do some homework, go do Pinterest and, you know, bring me a collection of 10 images, right? Because like I said, it's either a flowing white gown or 50 shades of gray or somewhere in the middle. Like, what do you like? So a week later, we got together and she shows me 3 pictures. Now, mind you, you know Pinterest. Pinterest is a black hole of images. So you can be there for 3 days going through every page, right? Like you'll end up like with a recipe for, you know, like cookies if you're not careful. So she comes back and I'm like, how do you only have 3 images? She's like, there are no pictures of people that look like me. Now you can see Gabby there. Gabby is a queer, husky, masculine of center woman, and she loves everything about herself. And here she is looking for representation, looking for inspiration, and she can't find it. So of course, then I lost my shit and I was like, oh, we're gonna make our own Pinterest board and we're gonna do this our way. And that's how our shoot started. So when we go through her shoot, and I think here we have maybe 3 or 4 images, I wanna say, I think 3, yeah. So 3.
Is this one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them. That's her as well. You see the hair, right? So all of these are things and ways that Gabby specifically defines herself. But of course, you know, she is also representing, right? She's representing masculine of center women. The hair, really big deal in Gabby land. Like, you know, the hair is the thing, right? That's why that one is so important. I'm actually going to read to you just a little bit of what she says. And this is on my website. So my degree is English education. Someone else mentioned earlier their previous lives. I used to be an English teacher and I love writing. So with all of my pictures comes writing. So if you go to my website, you can read the full story. But so this is what, this was her thought process. These are her words. She says, I found plenty of hot photos of butch and masculine presenting women in full suits and ties. But what about those chubby butch women? Where were their bodies underneath those suits? Our identity isn't only what we wear or even how we cut our hair. We're humans with bodies and sexuality underneath all of that. Where is our body positivity and us embracing what we feel sexy in that doesn't cover every inch of our skin? So we did the shoot and she says, she goes, I pushed the envelope. I put on what I feel sexy in, a suit and tie, my Doc Martens, some flannel, suspenders, and some queer ass buck gear, she says. And then I stripped right down to my unicorn underwear. And so after we did the shoot, you know, we realized this is not like just one person. Like now we have a responsibility. So that's how the Butch Boudoir project was born. And it's now, you know, it's a movement, right? So I happen to be the founding photographer, but this is something that we want to grow and to fill the landscape with images of women that fit that look, you know, because there, how could that be? How could there be no reference point for that? So I'm very passionate about body diversity and everybody having a place and everybody being seen and seeing yourself. And so I really enjoyed doing that project with her. I think you might have one more image after that one of Gabby. Let's take, yeah, right there. Again, you know, the whole set is on my website, but in these particular images, you know, I love that you can see her strengths, you know, you can see her style and you can see her being intimate, you know, in an intimate way that's true to her, right? I'm not going to say, Gabby, go put on a corset and some thigh highs, right? That's why, because that's not the definition of sexy. The definition of sexy is confidence, it's excitement, it's whatever you bring. And that's what these images, for me, that's what you know, she brought her A game and she stretched, you know, she, you know, I mean, we have some pictures of her like, you know, playing with Legos and eating a donut, you know, I mean, that's who Gabby is. She's got rainbow everything, you know, suspenders and hats and all of this, because that's who she is. And that's what I felt was missing, right? Is, you know, people that look like her. So that was really important to me to do. And that's what one of the subjects of the Butch Boudoir project. If you want to,
I you know, I think your work is beautiful. I've always been a fan of your work, but when I saw these images and read about the Butch Boudoir project, it just took my appreciation to another level, another dimension.
Thank you.
And is it okay if you talk about these images right here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So this is Delmar. Delmar is a queer, non-binary person who is also a disabled ambulatory wheelchair user. And all of those little pieces of Delmar make up who they are. And again, you know, this is a project. Each project is personal to each person. So what we see here is a celebration of Delmar, you know, and for Delmar, if you all will indulge me, they wrote so incredibly in the blog post that I created that my words honestly would do an injustice. So if you want, give me just about a minute, leave these images, and we can see the next one too. And I just want to read to you guys, if you guys can indulge me just a minute, because I love this. Delmar says, my body is home to multiple identities that society covers in shame. I am fat. I am transgender, non-binary. I am Latinx and mixed race. I am disabled and an ambulatory wheelchair user. My life is lived in the liminal spaces, constantly in flux, a chameleon, and I'm 100% nothing but myself. Inspired by Key Brown's hashtag disabled and cute and Andrew Gurza's hashtag disabled people are hot, I wanted photos to celebrate my body, my beauty. I wanted art that represents me. Preparing for this shoot forced me to dig down into what those identities mean. Words have always been my way, images not so much. How do I show you in pictures things that are often invisible? And again, you're about to see the same thing that Gabby went through. Delmar says, I looked for role models. Google searches like disabled boudoir and gender-queer boudoir didn't yield much that felt like me. I wanted a cheat sheet, but no one had written one for my own body, my own experiences. Instead, Graciela guided me through writing my very own book of sensual, textured poems to myself. And this next part is really, I think, very powerful. Delmar says, 12 hours before the shoot, I sat in the bathtub, razor in hand, debating whether to shave my legs or leave the hair be. I love the smoothness, but the task leaves me pained and exhausted, and I rage at the social expectations. That's why it's important to me to create a space that's non-judgmental, shame-free. Like, what is important to you, right? So at the end, Delmar says, my wide hips, fat ass, and thick thighs are my favorite features. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome has given me many gifts. I'm super fond of the way I move my hands for emphasis when I am speaking, unique in the laxity of my finger and wrist joints. I'm beautiful in the flexibility of all my joints, knees bending backwards, not unlike the flamingo. My skin is super smooth thanks to my faulty collagen, not a wrinkle in sight, even on the verge of turning 40. My fat cheeks bloom up, making my eyes delightfully squinty when I smile with my whole face. And when I dance, my whole fat body sways and jiggles to the beat like water moves by the deep bass. And these photos are a celebration of my whole liminal self. Thank you for indulging me reading that. But wow, that's it. That's the whole purpose of these images, is to create what the subject needs in their life, you know, and it is an absolute honor. I do not take this lightly. There's a lot of homework involved when folks shoot with me, but you know, it's really a pleasure. It's really an honor.
And I was gonna ask you about the experience of your clients during and throughout this process, and the experience of liberation and acceptance and empowering. But I think you answered my question.
Yes. I'll add this is that I'll tell you what I repeat to every person that calls me. Everyone says, I'm not photogenic. I don't know. I'm not going to look good. And I said, I've never had anybody call me and say, I'm a rock star, photograph me. No one else says that. Everyone says, I don't know. And you are capable of so much more than you know. Like, that's what these images are for, is that you are capable of so much more than you think. Whatever you think your limit is, just set a sight a little bit further than that, and your whole world opens up. You know, it's just amazing. We actually have a Butch Boudoir project number 2 is launching. We're going to have a launch Friday night at 7 o'clock. So if you go to Butch Boudoir Project on Facebook, you'll find our event. But we did a nice, really nice shoot with 4 women, all identifying butch, all super masculine. Like, this is my jam. I love this. And we did it in a tattoo parlor. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, that is so
surprise. But we're going to have a little happy hour. So I hope you guys can join us, because it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, I just want to also give a special shout out to Gabby, who is our friend in the community here. And especially as a masculine, I identify as masculine of center, to see the images. And I love the courage that she, you know, took to do that work. I know it's not necessarily easy. And there's always this sense like this culture is saying masculinity belongs to men, and it doesn't. It belongs to anyone who feels it. So I love the way Gabby expressed her masculinity as a woman.
Amen.
Well, and you know, these type of conversations is kind of like remind me why we have to kind of like keep creating these safe spaces for artists, for creatives to showcase and feature their work. And like, I am beyond proud and grateful that you chose ArtServe to, you know, just collaborate and partner up. So, yeah, I couldn't be grateful for the opportunity.
We're very grateful as well. You guys have been amazing. Sophie.
And I want to take a moment to ask Jen if we got any questions or comments before we move forward to our next artist.
We have a lot of comments. Derek says, these images are so beautiful. Kathy says, stunningly beautiful photos. Great job. And also, this is huge. Go, Gabby. Nikki says, love the concept and imagery of the Butch Boudoir project. And then I put it's Butch Boudoir project on Facebook, right?
Yes.
Great. I put that in the comments. And I love the idea of the unicorn underwear.
That's on the website too. That's on the website. You know, the most important part for me is, bottom line, is freedom. You know, I've had my own boudoir shoot done twice. The first one I did very, very feminine. And the second one, I say that I pulled out my my lumberjack, you know, persona, because I was in, you know, my Harley boots and my flannel and, you know, out in the woods, you know, running around naked and, you know, just having a good time. So what I want people to take away from the photography is just like, live your life, you know, live your life and enjoy yourself, and put that representation out there, put those pictures out there, because what you do for yourself allows other women to do it for themselves even more. So to me, it's my responsibility to get out there and be naked for you all.
We love it.
Thank you, Graciela. And I think it's a good time to welcome our last but not least artist of the night, who has been patiently waiting for her turn, Khaulah Naima Nuruddin. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, and please tell us about your practice, your work. I will share a couple of images in a second.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I can talk over you sharing the images, right?
Please.
Please do, and hurry up. Well, it's interesting. I was going to approach this conversation in a very specific way that, and if you're going to keep that up there, that'd be great. I was going to approach this conversation in a very like artist talk fashion. But instead, because I am going last, there's so much that has come out of, there are like these, I've been taking a couple of notes here and there. You know, there's so much that's come out of each individual's sharing, and I think it's been very powerful. So instead of like doing a artist talk thing, you know, which we can get, you know, whenever we can get it at some point, what I'd like to do is hit on something that each person has said. But so just to express here, the picture that you're seeing on your computer or whatever your device, internets you're using, that image is from some photos I took of my lover at the time when we were traveling in Nicaragua, me, my lover, my brother. And like I said before, I'm primarily a painter. So this is my beginning painting years, where I first started painting in oils. And I just got addicted to it in a way. So, but now, you know, my art practice has expanded in this way that the screen can't manage, right?
I love that.
Anyway, these are like very early paintings. But these paintings are about freedom. And that's something Graciela said earlier, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly, but that's something you said, well, not earlier, but moments ago, about freedom, and about being self-expressed in any image. And that's what that work is about. So I would just like to express that in regard to that artworks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make comments that are all just about appreciation for the other artists. But the appreciation I'm expressing is about things that happen in my own personal art practice. Okay. So images of people who look like me. That's what Graciela said. Images of people who look like me. You know, if I don't ever see me, then how can I ever be seen? But that doesn't mean that I'm an object to be seen. You know, I'm not an object because I exist. I mean, we could debate this later, you know, so inbox me if you want to debate later, we can inbox. But so these are some things that came out of what she said, and that relates to that image that you're seeing there on the screen. And then about, let's see, how you feel is not how you look. It's the same thing. How you feel is not how you look. Even about when you, like right now, Blackness is, we know what's going on, right? So how you feel is not how you look, you know? And if you think about The Bluest Eye, you know, if Khaulah feels like she's a white girl, you know, then why is she not a white girl, right? So things like this. And if you feel like you're not a fat girl, why are you a fat girl, right? And all this language and shaming of the body, you know, all of these things are important to address. And then our relationships to our bodies are important to address. And we should be free with our bodies. So I love the work that you're, you know, doing there. And something that Jane expressed about marriage oppression, I think relates directly to that. This is the language I'm using, but something that Jane expressed about being oppressed in marriage, I think is really important, where queers, and I identify as a lesbian woman, and I actually got married to a woman, and I went up north. This is before it was, you know, legal and whatnot all around. So I went up north and got married, and then when I came to Florida with my wife, my marriage was irrelevant, and that's problematic. So this too, everything that I do in my art practice, it leads back to freedom. So marriage oppression is something that, you know, was really powerful for Jane to express earlier, when you're talking about the struggles you had to think about, or just the emotional experience of, you know, in your relationship being invalidated. And it's all about decolonizing all of this language. You know, all of these things need to be decolonized. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And then this Zipporah, is it Zipporah? Is that proper?
It's Safra.
Safra. Oh, I apologize. Thank you.
No, it's fine.
Correction. Okay. So Safra said a couple of things that really struck me. Respecting other cultures. And you make some really interesting graphic images that integrate multiple cultures. And I think that that's something. But I really think that it's important to respect other cultures. And this is something that I do or others. And look at your own source material. So where are you sourcing your material from? You know, if you are very excited about some other culture.
Oh, like this is a direct question.
Oh, what?
Oh, is this like a direct question, or you're still talking?
No.
Okay.
It's not a question. No.
Okay.
It's not a question. I'm just gonna one by one make a point about each person.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Just making sure I just don't want to like be all paused and then you're.
No.
Okay.
No. It's not a question. It's not a question. What I wanted to do is, and I actually had thoughts to like, I actually had a plan to like make a very succinct, you know, this is my art practice, but so what? Who cares? You know, who cares about my art practice?
Well,
I think it's important now to talk. I mean, well, right.
Well, we do care, and I wanna add that from the very beginning, the art woman has always had a large element of impromptu. Whether it's conversation, we never knew who would perform, what they would perform. So what you're doing is strongly in line with who we are. So I love it.
It is.
We love it. Yes.
It is. And I actually, you know, I was prepared to have a conversation about this is what I do. This is how I do it.
So we'll make sure people visit your website to learn more.
Check it out. It's there. The website is there. Yes. So so what I wanted to say about what she expressed, that's what she expressed, her pronouns, respecting other cultures. And I think that it's wonderful to acknowledge that you are appropriating other cultures. And this is something that I think doesn't happen as often as it should. You know, people, artists, you know, are not acknowledging how often they are collecting information from other cultures. And it's important to do that. Always give credit where credit is due. So I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. And on the other end, in my own personal art practice, it's important to me to make sure that I always acknowledge any sentence that I didn't create and any image that I didn't design, and acknowledge where that image came from if I didn't. So, you know, like in my work, like in the drawings, those are collage images that are photos. So I didn't create that, but I put it together, you know, and sometimes that's what we do as artists. That's really important. We put things together. We connect all of these dots, you know, and it's like a constellation of all kind of fuckery in the world. Can we use cuss words?
Yeah, I have no issue with it. Are we good, ArtServe? I think you get about 5 cuss words per conversation, and we're at 3, so we're good.
Did I use 3 already?
No, I think Graciela used 1 or 2. So, but who's counting? I'm joking. That's fine.
Oh.
Go for it.
So it's like a constellation. So that's what we do as artists. We collect all this fuckery and we make it beautiful. It's like comedians in a way, and they're artists too. So we bring it all together and we bring it to light. And that's something that is important to me. So something that Trish said about career choices, I only have 2 more to go through, right? Trish and Esprit.
Okay, great.
That's correct?
You got it, Esprit, yeah?
Esprit, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Trish said something about career choices. I think this is really crucial to think about how important it is to not let people put you in a place where you don't belong. And that is something that has really been a driving force in my work. And in my, as an educator, I'm also a teacher, you know, things like this. So it's been important to me to make sure that we care for the youth and I think someone else mentioned, I don't remember who it was, but mentioned about how important it is to care for the youth. So how do we care for them? Help them to be who they are. And, you know, in Thou Art Woman, and I really appreciate what you've done here, G, with this exhibition. You know, what Thou Art Woman has done and what you are, I'm sure, going to continue to push forward and do to make sure that we're honoring individuals who don't really have the space to be honored. And that is problematic. And the only way we can save ourselves is saving our youth. And so that is really important.
We have some questions on Facebook, but we want you to address Esprit, and then we have a few questions, and I know we have to wrap up as well, but let's hear what you got to say about Esprit's work, and then we'll get some questions from Facebook.
Okay, wrap it up. So Esprit, about being vulnerable. Oh, I'm so glad that you didn't cut me off. So being vulnerable, this is so important. This is something I've had to work hard to learn, to be vulnerable as a human being, but to also be vulnerable in my art practice. And this is how your artwork is stronger. It's by virtue of putting yourself very sincerely in it. Okay? So being vulnerable as human beings helps us. I know it's very difficult. It's very difficult. But I know there's some memes you might see that say being vulnerable is the strongest strength. And it's like, this is strong. You're so strong. No, it's painful. It can be very, very painful. But I prefer to, you know, push through that pain. And I like that Esprit said that. And a quote from the reading, or from the poetry reading, was that creating our own story, which speaks to being vulnerable. You know, we cannot create our own stories if we don't tell our stories. And I think that's very important and powerful for historical purposes, but also that speaks back to, you know, freedom. You know, we cannot be free if we are like bottled up this way. Yes?
Yeah, excellent. That was really well done. I appreciate how you did that, Khaulah. I really appreciate it. And we're getting some good comments from Zoom and Facebook as well. And before we go to, Sophie, are you going to go to the questions, or Jen? I know you have a couple of questions.
I mean, I would like, I know that we're like we almost have to wrap up, but I would like to ask Jen if we have some last questions on Facebook or Zoom.
And just before you do that, let me make sure I acknowledge that we got a grant from our foundation that has helped sustain Thou Art Woman. We also got funding from Old Dillard Foundation and the Borough Cultural Division, and our fiscal sponsor is ArtServe. And ArtServe has been so amazing. Sophie particularly has put like blood, sweat, and tears in helping us do the show and then do this virtual segment because of COVID, something we've never done a panel before like this, but this is how we felt we could share the art woman and the work of our artists. So thank you.
So I have a comment from Kathy, and this is for Khaulah. I loved your dissection of artists and how and why you do what you do. And then she says, congratulations to you all, so talented. And then from Nikki, she says, I love the commentary that Khaulah is adding about all the art. Her curatorial side is peeking out.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
And then also, Nikki says, what's with the golden patch? Is it symbolic? That's Khaulah.
Can you see it? So that's
I see it now. I see it now.
Oh,
that's Oshun. So I have been doing this for years and years and years since I was 19. We don't need to, you know, put my business out there, but I'll be 40. I just put my business out there. I'll be 40 this year. And so, you know, for years I've been doing this patch. And I didn't know this, but eventually at some point I learned that it's actually a representation of in Orisha, Oshun, and this speaks back to, you know, African culture. So it's an Afrocentric thing. And this one, she likes honey, you know, she likes certain things, and she will guide you in certain ways. And you can Google it, Nikki.
Yeah.
Google
Good questions. It. Yeah, I want to also thank everybody who's been participating, asking questions, all the commentary and sharing. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, ladies. It has been a pleasure. Thank you all for sharing your work. Thank you to our women again for the constant support, and everyone who joined and participated with their comments and questions. And I also want to say thank you to my ArtServe team for all the hard work and passion that is put into creating programming like this that reflects our commitment to embrace diversity, equality, and inclusion in our community today. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.